All right, welcome in everyone, wherever you're joining us from. This is episode 14 of the Ninja Wealth Exchange. How you doing today, Johnny?
Good, man. How you doing?
Great. Happy New Year. It's 2026.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man.
Dude, it feels like we've been gone for a long time. I don't know about you, but the last 2 weeks, they have felt like really slow.
Fast for me, dude.
Slow.
Fast for me.
I didn't do anything. I'm not gonna lie. I just relaxed. Well, the last time we did the episode, I was sick, right? And then
True.
it was like
That's true.
Right before Christmas, and then I was sick most of that week or a couple days. But didn't really feel like doing a whole lot, just laid around a lot. And then I had a bunch of New Year's Eve parties. I had a housewarming party the other day for one of my past clients.
Nice.
But yeah, I just relaxed and hung out with the family, the kids. They're on winter break. Didn't do a whole lot of anything, but I did have a couple showings over the last couple of days. Actually got 2 accepted offers today, just recently, a couple hours ago. So yeah.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, for me, so we didn't travel out, so I was sending everybody to the airport. And then we had snowstorms.
Oh,
so
that's fun.
It was nonstop. I had showings and everything in all of it. So it was
Nice.
busy.
Cool. Yeah, so just getting into the swing of things, right? And to start the year here. I don't know about you, but at the family gatherings, whenever you go places, right? People always ask us as realtors, as loan officers, we're both. The question is always, hey, how's the market, right? You agree? You get asked that a lot?
Yeah, I get asked it tons of times. Yeah.
Right. So, since the year just started, figured, you know what, it's prediction time, right? Let's help answer the question for everybody, right? And help people get started with the year, help them get figured out with what might happen and how they should strategize, right? To be clear, nobody actually really knows what's going to happen, right? But of course, we do have data, right? And we like to predict what might happen, and we can kind of help guide you on, what things you should be doing or working towards, right? And if things happen a certain way, how you should respond, right? Because being prepared will help you make the right move, right? So, of course, the hottest topic we're going to start off with, right? One of the, I don't know, it's been a hot topic for the last 30 years, probably. But anytime I talk to somebody, I always get that one person who's like, hey, when I'm saying like, hey, are you thinking about buying? Their one response right away is, no, I'm waiting for the crash. It's going to happen. Right? There's always that one guy, right? Maybe 2.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the crash. It's got to crash. People have been saying this for they said the crash is on a 10-year cycle, right? It was like 2009. Okay, so we heard that in 2018, right? And now we're close to 2028.
20?
We're close to 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Nothing crashed yet. We even survived COVID. So Let's start with that one. I'll let you talk about your prediction on foreclosures and of course with prices, right? Because that ties right into with the crash and things like that. So take it away.
Yeah, so do we expect foreclosure to go up? Yeah, sure. Like I think that in any town where there is an employer who's moving to all AI or something like that, you're going to see a reduction in employment. And so if there's a reduction in employment, of course there's going to be properties that need to be sold. If people are moving out of the market, or even if let's say for example people are going into foreclosure, right? So without a job, I think usually people get a severance of about 6 months, right? Whenever they go through a layoff or something like that, somewhere between 3 to 6 months. And if you're in a higher position, it may be longer, but for the most part I think between 3 to 6 months. You're not going to see anything for 3 to 6 months, and then you'll start to see houses go on the market, and you'll start to see foreclosures happen. And of course, foreclosures always happen because there's always someone that's not financially responsible with their mortgages, right? So, historically, we're coming off pandemic lows, and so I think it's more normalizing than anything else. But my thoughts is that if you want to buy a foreclosure, right, they're out there. Just look for them, right? Um, but I don't think we're going to see anything close to what we saw in 2008 2009's crash. There's just too much equity out there. People own homes, but there's just so much equity in those homes that when they sell it, they're going to sell it at a premium because they want to get that equity out. You have uh, way more regulations on loans, especially for like first time home buyers to anybody that's buying new construction and such like that. Uh, when 2008 2009 happened, they put in all the Dodd-Frank laws. Even though some of that has been removed, there are still a ton of laws out there that requires lenders to lend out appropriately. And so, the standards are so much higher that I just don't think you're going to see the same level. Plus, there's fewer sellers that are forced to sell. What that means is that if someone goes into foreclosure, right, they have certain timelines that they can meet where they can sit on it. And then in addition to that, when the regulations came, my understanding is that the regulations came along with lender regulations where you can't just throw all of your foreclosures onto the market all at once, right? You have to actually do a trickle effect so that it doesn't negatively impact the market. So, with that all being said, I don't think there's going to be a dramatic shift like in 2008, 2009. But, like, I mean, if there are some things that we're not going to be able to read, like we didn't see COVID coming, right? Or if we did, we didn't expect that the housing was going to boom, right? During COVID.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Interest rates just dropped dramatically, so there's a lot more control now over what can happen in the housing industry, right?
Right, right. And so there are some headlines out there that I've been seeing that certain parts of the country are having higher rates of foreclosures, right? Have you been seeing that
Mhm.
too? So
Yeah, yeah,
what
absolutely.
what do you have to say about that?
So I think that that's a micro economy thing, where if you go into a small economy, right? Let's say, for example, like in 2000, in 2000, 2001, right? Way back in those days, I used to live back in Michigan, right? And when the auto industry crashed, right? Michigan was basically auto industry. The whole entire state was based around the auto industry. That being said, when the auto industry crashes, they lay off a ton of people. In fact, like because the all the small businesses are also built around the auto industry, they die out as well. And so when the big business dies out, the small business dies out, everybody's getting laid off. You're gonna see, some changes. So if it's a microeconomy, you can see that happen. Whereas like even in 2008, 2009, even though I think here in the Twin Cities, I was already here in the Twin Cities at that time. Um, I think a lot of properties dropped like 50%, right? But the thing was that the economy here was still strong. A lot of people still had jobs. And even though the market dropped, it dropped out of fear instead of out of um, like actual like job losses or microeconomy situations. So my thoughts are is that if you're in a town like I am in here in the Twin Cities where you have a few Fortune 500 companies and they stay standing even though you get hit with the dramatic change, you're going to be just fine. So that's my opinion on it. I don't know. What do you think, Laura?
No, I 100% agree that when you're seeing these national headlines that foreclosures are increasing, right? But then you click on the article and you read a little bit more details into it. It's mostly just pointing out certain markets, right? And
Hmm. Hmm.
so you've got markets like where our partner is in Fort Myers, Fort
Hmm.
Myers, Cape Coral. It's like a snowbird kind of place. It's very a boom bust market. Same with
Hmm.
Vegas. Vegas is always on the list of foreclosure rates, right? Because again, you like you said, it's a certain type of industry out there, right? And
Hmm.
so it's entertainment, hospitality. If people stop visiting Vegas, tons of people are going to get hurt, right? And
Hmm.
so of course it's going to impact prices of homes. So just because Detroit's on fire, it doesn't mean everywhere else is being flooded as well, right?
Yep.
So that's what we got to understand. So um now moving on to prices. So I'll talk a little bit about prices. Are they going to go up? Or are they going to go down? Or are they going to stay the same, right? For 2026, right? So, I mean, reading majority of the headlines, majority of these economists that work for, all these major outfits, majority of them are saying that prices are going to increase slightly, right? So,
Hmm.
anywhere from you might see anywhere from 1% to 4 or 5%, whatever, right? Some more rosy economists might think it's going to go higher, but no one's really saying that prices are going to go down. It sounds like mostly it's going to stay steady. So, if you're a buyer and you're sitting on the fence and you're hoping for, you know, significant price reductions, it may not happen. The other thing is that, again, these are very nationwide, national, predictions, right? Um, you could be like, "Oh, hold on. In Minneapolis, prices might actually go up, right?" Especially when we
Hmm.
were just talking before the show started. You were
Yeah.
saying that the market's been ridiculous the last couple of weeks. You have buyers, homes going under contract before the buyers can even show up to the showings.
Yep.
So,
Yep. It's
eh,
getting crazy up here already, and we haven't
yeah,
even the real market, the spring market hasn't even hit yet. So,
right, right. And you said your days on market are averaging 23 days on market.
yep.
That's crazy.
No.
That's crazy
Hmm.
low. Um, for example, in Milwaukee, 2025, Milwaukee was one of the top more competitive markets for 2025. And our prices were, when it was like peak sellers market, yeah, our prices were up. Even now, prices are starting. You are able to negotiate right now. Um, it is slower. There's less buyers, and so that means homes are sitting longer. But again, if your house that you want is in a really good, attractive area that everybody else wants to be in, you better believe that house is still going to be, people are going to be fighting for it, right? Um,
Hmm.
so prices, it's going to stay pretty much the same, a little bit more expensive. But again, of course, that can all change, right? So there's many factors to that. Um, so all right, and like I said, even very local, right? Real estate is very local, even in different school districts, right? Different counties, different school districts. One neighborhood, one city has a better school district. Those homes are going to be more expensive, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
same with property tax, right? Yeah, that plays into a lot of things. Um, Picking your county where you want to live, the property taxes matter a lot, especially for affordability. That's something that people don't really realize, right? When they're shopping, they're only focused on rates, right? So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I'd like to
so
add to that.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah, so here in the Twin Cities, right, we have the 13 counties, and then we have like the biggest one is Hennepin County, right? And in the 13 counties, we're seeing prices increase by like 4.5%, right? Um, we're seeing, like, just in general, home sales are happening, and like you said, they were closing in like 23 days. In Hennepin County, the biggest county, they're closing in 20 days. In addition to that, with price increases, it's just you're looking at lower days on the market, higher sales price. I was just looking at it, and in the 13 counties, the average sale price is $393,000, right?
Mm.
And that's gone up. That's gone up like over the last 12 months. Like in January 2024, the average price was at 370, right? And right now it's at 393. So you're seeing home prices go up for us, and you're seeing days on the market being short. If interest rates drop anymore, right, you're going to see multiple offers on any home that is under $400,000, right? Which I think, affordability is going to be tough. If homes around that $400,000 range are going to be selling at 20 days on the market, yeah, it's just tough. And that's where Hennepin is. Their average price is actually 400,000 right now. And so don't be surprised if you jump in and you think that you can get a house for under 300,000 in Hennepin County. It's going to be kind of like the houses are going to be in a rough shape.
Mm.
Um, so it's exactly like you said. It's very, very local, market driven. People do really pretty much care about the rates, but there are other things to consider, just like you said, taxes. I know that in the state of Florida, right? Because I do mortgage business in Florida,
Mhm.
the insurance is ridiculous. Like, if you want to invest and you go in there and you crunch your numbers, because, like, let's say, for example, you got a ocean front property, you're looking
Yep.
at $10,000 a year for your property.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know, like, where are you at in Texas, right? In Texas, are you close to $10,000 a year?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, all right. So yeah,
Sure.
so insurance is crazy. And then
Yeah.
of course you got taxes and then HOA dues, right? If you go into a community where there are HOA dues,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to be looking at, yeah,
Yep.
paying a higher HOA. It's yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
there's a lot to
that's not
consider.
that's not even in our show notes. It's like we weren't even planning on talking about insurance, but insurance
Right.
is a whole nother thing.
Yep.
Insurance has gone crazy. The whole
Mhm.
insurance industry is crazy.
Yep.
But yeah. So let's move on. You were talking about rates. You got a little bit ahead of the show here. So
Mhm.
let's move on to rates. Prediction on rates. Are they going to go up, down, stay the same? What do you think?
Hey, look, if the president of the United States, right? I know people don't really care for him, but if the president of the United States is saying he wants interest rates lower, the likelihood is that interest rates are going to be lower. From what I heard, the current Fed president, or chairman, right? The
And we're going to talk
federal.
about that stuff later. We'll talk about that stuff later.
Oh, okay, okay. So my thoughts are rates are probably going to drop by, I would say, end of May.
Hmm.
End of May-ish, we'll
How
see
much?
some rates
How
drop.
much?
At least a quarter, maybe 2, uh, quarter point,
A quarter
or
point.
sorry,
So
quarter percent. Yeah. So,
okay, so
um,
that'll get us to maybe, if we're lucky, high fives.
um,
High fives, low six.
if you're a first-time home buyer, right? We have specific products at Win-Win Financial, and you might get into the mid fives, right? If you get lucky, you'll get
Yep.
into the mid fives. If you don't get lucky, then yeah, you'll get into the low fives. And to be honest, anywhere in the fives, things are gonna go gangbusters. Like, that's just my opinion. So get ready for multiple offers if you ever see interest rates go down below 6%.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yes. So actually, right now you can get under six if you go with FHA, right? Um,
Mhm.
and FHA has its, you know, nuances that you should be aware of. Um, and if you don't know, talk to us. We'll fill you in. But
Mhm.
one of the most common things when I talk to people Hey, we're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My internet is freaking out. Okay,
Yeah, I
looks
didn't
like I'm
know
back.
that was me or if that was you.
No. All right. So anyway, I think I was saying interest rates. There's always that one guy too that says, "Hey, let me know when the 2% rates are coming back or the 3%," right? And I'm just like, man, uh, sorry to burst your bubble, but it's never coming back. Never. You missed your chance, right? When people thought the
Yeah.
world was ending, right? It's pretty much going to be another one of those things where people are going to think the world's ending for that to happen again, right? And then at that point, are you going to pull the trigger? The whole world's falling apart. Are you going to go get a mortgage to buy a house?
The answer is yes, but
Yes, yeah, right. But yeah, easier said than done, right? So,
Mhm. Absolutely.
realistically speaking, my personal prediction is that yeah, rates have been trending down recently, and I would expect them to continue trending down. Right now, is it going to be significant? Mm, probably not. I kind of agree with you. It might be in the high fives, and again, anything in the fives, it's going to cause a lot of craziness, right? In the market with competition. It's going to increase pricing, things like that, right? So instead of focusing on rates, Johnny, what do buyers need to focus on?
So I think that, you need to focus on a few things. You need to focus on number one, your monthly payment, right? Can you actually manage that monthly payment? And uh is the monthly payment going to hurt you? Is it going to break you? If not, then you should probably get in now before it's too late and prices of homes increase dramatically. And in addition to that, you got to focus on, your cash to close and your flexibility. So some of the things that I think about is, okay, so if you currently live an hour away from your workplace, right, and you want to move closer, you're gonna have to go ahead and make that jump. Now, if you think about it from just the gas savings, you might actually be saving money if you were to move. So you can look at that. You can look at, some of your expenses. Could you reduce your expenses so that you can actually afford to get into a house? Because like it's better to own a home. This is just my personal opinion. It's better to own a home than to have a really, really nice tundra, right? And so my thoughts are is that if you can focus on the monthly payment, that'll allow you to be able to get into the house that you want earlier on. Now, if you're investing, of course, that means it's gonna have to do with your cash flow, right? So as long as you've cash flow, you should probably jump in. Um, and so, looking at the flexibility, looking at the cash to close, looking at the monthly payment, that's what you should focus on. And then, some of the things that you should be looking at, because like right now in the current market, because we're in winter, right? Usually when we're in winter everywhere. So when you're in winter, you probably want to reduce or negotiate, I should say, your seller paid closing costs. So get some more seller credits in there. Possibly do a buy down on the rates where you can do like maybe a 1 or 2 year buy down, meaning the rates for the first year and for the second year is going to be cheaper than your ongoing rate. And so if interest rates reduce, right, over time, you'll be able to go ahead and get that lower interest rate. Now, if interest rate does not reduce, then you're locked in, so you're solid, right? So, temporary buy downs is probably a good idea to look at that. Also, you can look at loan structures, right? Some programs require more down payment, which means your monthly payment will be cheaper, but some loan structures allow for maximum like financing, which means that if you can get, down payment assistance program for if you're a new first time home buyer, you can get a down payment assistance program and you don't need that much money to get in, and you're currently renting right now and the mortgage is going to be a little cheaper than your current rental. You might want to take it up and go ahead and move forward with that perspective. So those are some of the things that I think that you should do. But my thoughts are is that if you can make that monthly payment, right, the leap, just from owning real estate, I think that's huge, right? Whenever you own real estate, you will build equity over time. And as you build equity, you can use that equity for other things in the future. So my thoughts are, if you can get in, get in.
Mhm.
And if you like Laura said, if you have questions about financing, just give us a call. Right.
Right, right. Yep. So just to kind of recap here, right? If you're waiting for lower rates, that's usually going to be a signal to all the other buyers just like you that are waiting, right? And so once
Hmm.
everybody jumps in the pool, it's going to be more competition fighting over the same amount of homes, right?
Yeah.
So and then of course everybody's going to bid the prices up, and so now you as a buyer, you're going to have less leverage, right? So um, instead of waiting for rates to come down, you know, be prepared. Get prepared now, and just be ready to buy when the opportunity comes along, right?
Hmm.
Because we can't control what rates do, but we can control what we do, right? So, um, all right. So then that leaves us to another of the factors here, which is inventory, right? And so, this is a common topic and question as well. When are we going to see inventory really come back, right? What are your thoughts on that, Johnny?
So I'm hearing news across the United States that inventory is slowly rising, right?
Mhm.
Across the US, we're seeing inventory rise. That means that as inventory rises, supply and demand, when there's more supply than there is demand, you're going to see prices change, right? But it's slow, right? So it's not like you're seeing a ton of homes just come on. In addition to that, like we were saying earlier, people want their equity from their home, and so if they're selling their home, they're probably going to be pricing it according to what the market is, and so you probably won't see too much of a drop in price unless there is a significant need to move. Like, let's say, for example, if you're in a town where there are a bunch of layoffs and everybody's moving for job opportunity, yes, you're gonna see a shift. Or if they're joining a bunch of relocation companies that have already bought them out, and the relocation company needs to, let go of the property, you're gonna see prices go down. But the likelihood is that I think prices will go up. And especially here in the Twin Cities, we're going to see prices go up as soon as the spring market comes in. If interest rate does fall, you're going to see prices go up pretty significantly, even though the inventory might be high. Like right now, I think we might be at a all-time high in the last, like, I don't know, I say 24 months, but it's still not record high numbers. It's nowhere close to what we saw in 2008, 2009. Like, nowhere close to that. So I
Mhm.
think it's just kind of returning back to historical norms is what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's kind of the same headlines I saw, is that inventory is finally kind of like back up to the same levels as before the pandemic, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so some markets, again, real estate being very local, some markets actually have three times the amount of sellers than buyers. So in those markets, it's a great time to buy, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I read the news. Lakeland, Florida is one of those towns where they just don't have that many buyers, and so even new construction is super cheap out there. But like, who wants to live in Lakeland, Florida, right? I mean, I know people in Lakeland, Florida, and it's a nice place. Don't get me wrong, right? It's a very nice place, but it's in between Orlando and Tampa, and if you want to be down there, you probably want to be in Orlando or Tampa. So.
Right, right. Okay. So where are we at? Did we talk about increasing inventory? How do we do that?
What do you mean? Like how do we increase
What's
inventory?
kind of the solution? What would need to happen for inventory to increase?
Life events, right? Life events needs to take place, meaning jobs, downsizing, families growing. The sellers will likely have to adjust to the current state of the rates, right? So interest rates aren't as low as they were about 2 3 years ago, right?
Hmm.
Maybe even like 5 years ago. Interest rates aren't as low as they were 5 years ago. So that means that people have to understand that interest rates are higher and less people can afford the different properties that are being sold out there. Therefore, they're not offering as high of a value. So in specific markets where you have a ton of properties and days on market, it's past like 60 days out there,
Hmm.
your sellers are going to have to need to know, right, that you're going to have to drop the price because they're outside of their affordability range, right?
Hmm.
And then finally, there probably will have to be an increase in new construction, right? If there's a ton of new construction being built, like I think in Orlando, there was a ton of new construction being built on the outskirts of Davenport. And when you're seeing that happen, of course, prices will go down because the supply curve increases, and therefore less demand
Hmm.
equals lower prices. So my thoughts are is that that's how you can get the inventory to increase, and it's going to be dependent on microeconomies.
Yep. Yep. Totally. I agree. All right. Yeah. And then some of the things that keep inventory tight right now, I guess, is like I think you already mentioned one of the things is that with the I think I saw somewhere that 70% of the mortgages out there right now are like below 4%, right? That's a huge amount.
Um,
That's a
yeah,
that's a huge amount of mortgages that are under 4%.
yeah,
So
I
if
believe
you
it. I mean, that
right,
sounds correct.
so it's a rate lock-in, right? Effect.
Yep.
So if it's like a mindset, like you got a 4% or less, why are you going to give that up for a six and a quarter, five,
Yeah, it's
right?
tough.
So yeah, it's tough. And then at the same time, a lot of buyers out there that I talk to, they're like, dude, if I sell my house today, I give up my rate and I can't even buy a house as good as the one I live in right now because of the rate. I can't afford it.
Yep. Yep. I'm seeing that too.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
Mm.
But yeah, that's kind of where like, hey, if we can improve inventory, that might make rates prices come down, becomes more affordable, right? So that's something to watch out for 2026. Um, and then let's move on to the things that you were talking about earlier, politics and policy, right? So you already
Hmm.
mentioned
Hmm.
that you know Trump is putting home affordability like as a priority for 2026. So he's made that public,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Um, he's kind of I've heard he demanded the rates go down, right?
Yes, he did.
He demanded the rates go down. Now the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, right? Federal
Yeah.
Reserve doesn't control the rates, right?
Hmm.
They can kind of influence it, but they don't control what it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's also something else is that apparently Jerome Powell is going to be stepping down as the leader of the Federal Reserve, right? This coming spring, I believe, according to the headlines. And so that's gonna cause some things to happen, right? And maybe the new person that comes in, because now I believe Trump gets to assign him, right? So
Hmm.
um maybe they're more willing to do what Trump says.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we've already kind of talked about in the last episode about some of the ideas that the Trump administration has been throwing out, such
Hmm.
as the 50-year mortgage, portable mortgages, things like that, right? And
Hmm.
if you missed those episodes, you can go back into our YouTube channel and you can look at that in our library there. We had a whole episode on that. And I guess, there's something else just happened. Was it yesterday? Yeah. Uh Potential war, right? On the horizon. Right? Um so apparently we kidnapped the president and
Yeah.
vice president's wife of Venezuela.
Yep.
Uh, and so there's probably some kind of repercussion that's going to come about it, right?
Yep.
So we don't know what's going on. Well, how is that going to affect things, right? And very interesting because I thought at first everything, this show isn't to be political, but at first everything was like, hey, Venezuela's bad. They do drugs. They send out cocaine, blah, blah, blah. But then within a couple hours, Trump is doing a press conference and he's like, Venezuela was very bad at producing oil. We're going to put the top petroleum companies in there and they're going to pump the crap out of the oil and we're going to sell it for money. It was wild, man. It was wild. This is just straight to the point. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So
No filter. No filter.
that's a whole nother thing now. So if this whole plan goes into effect and the US is somehow able to have more oil supply, more control over oil, petroleum becomes cheaper. That also in turn would hopefully lower the cost for a lot of things like building material, energy costs, right? Home building costs. Hopefully that means homes are more affordable. I don't know.
I'd say good luck, but but here's to hoping,
hopefully.
right?
Right. I mean, a lot of America runs on petroleum, right? And there's
Yeah.
Texas, right? Oklahoma. Those are oil states.
Mhm.
When oil's good, when oil production is good, oil prices are good, the economies are booming, right? Let's be
Mhm.
honest,
Yeah.
right? When fuel prices are low, our economy is booming, right?
Yep.
When we have problems with oil, it's like it's going the economy's going into depression, right? We feel the pain at the pump. Everybody does, right? And then everything else kind of has that side effect, right? Nobody is really taking vacations. Nobody's really driving. Cost to fly is expensive. Cost to do everything is expensive, right? So we'll see how that affects housing, right? As far as war goes, I did ask ChatGPT, like, hey, historically, what do interest rates do when the US is, in potential war conflicts, right? And at first it says, well, in the beginning, when there's like periods of uncertainty, rates do tend to go down, right? Because it's the periods of uncertainty um,
Mhm.
influence that. So pretty interesting. So we will have to see how this plays out. Um, now, what's your take on it?
My thoughts are is that affordability is tough, right? Affordability on homes is tough. And the reason it's tough is because we are undersupplied, right?
Hmm.
So even if Trump, right, magically drop rates, I
Hmm.
don't think it's going to quite fix the housing crisis. And the reason is because lower interest rates create a demand, right?
Hmm.
Meaning all of the people that have been waiting on the sidelines will be jumping in to try to buy homes, which then drives up the price. And if there's not enough homes out there for all of these people who have been waiting, you're going to see prices go up. In addition to that, I think that some of the policies and so on is not going to change the current situation. Inventory is still going to be your main issue. Jerome Powell said, the real problem is there just isn't enough housing supply out there. Now, again, microeconomy, there's a likelihood that in your, if you're in a small town and there's plenty of homes to buy, there might be a possibility that you can get, a cheaper home. However, people want to be where the economy is, right? People want to be where people are, and where people are, there just is not enough housing supply.
Hmm.
And a part of this happens to be because we have not been building at the rate that we used to, meaning like for the last 10 years, we've been under building houses. The builders have been concerned about, maybe we're not going to be able to sell. But right now, today, not only were they concerned when we went through COVID, right, and the world stopped, they
Hmm.
didn't have the capacity. Like builders would come in and they're like, we want to build a house. And the windows guys are like, yeah, we don't have any staff. so you're not getting windows. And that's the same thing with lumber and so on, right? So we
Mhm.
have been underbuilding houses for over 10 years, and we can't just fix that overnight. um Affordability is tough. And until there's enough builders out there to build enough homes in the right markets, you're gonna see prices go up, right? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. So far, sounds like the policies, the suggestions have been to help the buyer side, right? So they've been pulling
Hmm.
on levers to help the buyer side, right?
Hmm.
When the real problem though is there's just not enough homes. I mean, so what if there's low rates and there's programs to help buyers, but everybody's still fighting for the same house, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's not going to help, right? So how do we fix this? Well, um, the we need more policies to help the supply side to help get more homes out there, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that some of the changes need to happen are like cities need to start thinking about their zoning laws, right? And they need to change their outdated zoning laws. A lot of cities, major cities, a lot of lots are only zoned single family, right?
Hmm.
So the other problem is that a lot of developed cities, right, interior urban cities, right, Milwaukee proper, Minneapolis proper, whatever, right? St. Paul proper. There's only so much land, right?
Yep. Yep.
There's only so much land. And if it's built out, it's built out, right? So how do we get more houses in places that are already built out, right? Well, I mean, we look at zoning. So if there's bigger lots that can support two houses on one lot, right? Why not change the zoning rules so that can allow another house to be built on there, right? Or perhaps change the zoning from single family to duplex, triplex, quadplex, right? Or look at ADUs, right? ADUs, I mean, home ownership perspective, a lot of places you can't really sell ADUs separately. They're not, you know, you can't own an ADU, right? It's not considered a home, right? So accessory dwelling units, it's just a house that sits kind of either attached or detached to your existing house. Um, Although there are some cities that you can buy ADUs separately now, and so that might be a rule that needs to go effect too, right? Um, and then the suburbs. I don't know about you, Johnny, but in the suburbs of Milwaukee, I have had clients who want to buy a house, an existing house, or maybe just land, um, but it has a certain amount of acreage, that right. So it's like, oh, this house has like 6 acres. Let's buy this house, and then can you ask the city if we can split it, and so my brother or whoever can build a house next door to me? And so some of these small towns, like right, these popular suburbs right outside the main city, I get on the phone with the planning department and I ask them, "Hey, is this? Can we do this?" Sometimes they're like, "No, the minimum
Yep.
lot is 5 acres."
Yep.
Like what?
Yep.
Like that's so it's not possible, right? So we can't do it, right? So that's where these popular suburbs need to start looking at changing the rules on making the minimum lots smaller so that more houses can be built, right? Um, so yeah. And then of course the other thing is, the other thing that really affects builders, right, is the permitting process, right? The amount of
Hmm.
time that it takes, right? Before a shovel can even go into the ground, right? There's a whole bunch of paperwork, money, time um, spent, right? People got to review the plans, they got to vote. You get the neighbors that say, not in my neighborhood, or, not in my backyard, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of back and forth that is involved in this whole building process. It's not as easy, right? So we need rules to kind of streamline the process so that it can get reviewed faster, get the permits out quicker, and potentially cost less. The soft costs they call it, right?
Yeah.
Before the shovel even goes in the ground. And to be honest, I mean, one of the affordability things, like in where I live in Menominee Falls, when I was helping buyers build brand new houses, there was something on the build cost sheet called the impact fee. And so I'm like, hey, what's asking the builder? Hey, what's impact fee? Oh, that's the cost that the town charges for the impact of creating this house. So the impact that's going to have on the resources of the city, that was 50,000. So,
That's crazy.
and guess what? That 50,000 just gets added right onto the cost for the buyer.
I mean, I think it's easier to just tax people than to charge an impact fee. That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Um,
So that
yeah,
gets
that's
tacked right
crazy.
onto the purchase price, right?
I haven't
And
seen that yet, but that's crazy.
yeah. And so it's like, wow, no wonder the cost to buy a brand new build is so expensive. And even today, I mean, a lot of builders, they don't build affordable homes anymore because
Right.
there's no money in it,
Correct.
right? There's just simply no money. They can't make a profit. So that's why they build the what do you call it? The I guess mid-tier 500, 600,000 and up, right? Because they can actually make a profit out of that. So that's the other thing, right? Is that how do we incentivize builders to build more affordable homes, right? Like you had talked about a little bit earlier, material costs, right, are higher. Um, Labor is also a huge factor, and this is very hyper local as well, right? Some
Yep.
areas you don't have the people who are, skills, trades people, right? That framers, electricians, plumbers, things like that, right? There's not enough of them. Masonaries, right? Um, and so it becomes more expensive to build that house there, especially if you don't have the labor, right? And then, of course, we have to look at existing building codes that might be outdated, right? Um, Potentially other things that might be interesting is how we treat modular homes or prefab, right? Homes that are built off-site and then put together on the site, right? So that might make homes more affordable, right? If we can figure out how to build them more affordable, right? Um, so, and then, yeah, I mean, really, it just seems like the incentives, the policies are kind of be pointing directed to the wrong side of the scale, right? So it's kind of helping buyers, which is creating more competition, right? But not really solving the issue of supply,
The
right?
supply. Yeah.
So, starter homes, supplies, um, in Milwaukee, we do have in the inner city, we do have a lot of these infill lots. And there are some cities that have a lot of these infill lots, right? So random like lots, right? And then of course you also have public public owned property, public lots, run down industrial buildings, things like that, just sitting there, right? And so cities really need to maybe put together opportunities to encourage small builders, right? Um, Small local builders actually live in the area and care about the community, right? Um, and if they can incentivize them, maybe give them tax credits, I don't know, right? To build affordable homes, to improve the community that they live in, right? To make use of the city's vacant, ugly, deteriorating buildings, right? There's a lot of that in Milwaukee. I don't know about where you're at, but there is a lot of that, right? And it's the public already owns it. The city owns it, so it's cheap, right? And so it gives the opportunity for someone to come in, build it, and then you're adding potential properties that are taxed, so more taxable income for the city, right? Um, I don't know what do you have a lot of that in your area, like infill lots, vacant buildings?
Actually, we don't.
Mm,
So when you're talking about lots, infill lots, there are city programs here in the Twin Cities. There's a lot of them, right? But even with that, it's still tough. Like, so what is it? Maybe a year or two ago, I had a client who bought a house that was built by a local builder, and that local builder received the property, the land, the lot for free,
mhm,
and then was given $100,000 to help with the build, and
mhm,
he still lost money in the deal, right? And so when you think about it, and the thing is because it's like they want it in a specific location, right? They want these grants to be given in a specific location, and that location doesn't deem the price of new construction homes, and they don't give the builders enough incentives to really make money on it. So it's just easier for the builder to go ahead and pick out a lot in the outskirts of town and then build a new construction there and make more money off of it. Like I think builders want to average somewhere between 25 to 100,000 per build. And you can't do that in the cities without some, some incentives, right? So I do think that, there are opportunities, but man, they're rough to come by. Are there a lot of rundown commercial buildings? Not really. Not here in the Twin Cities. There most of them are occupied, right? There are some that are run down, but they're not owned by the public, right? Most of the times they're owned by someone. If they are owned by the public, and it does go up for auction, people jump on it, right? And so we do have a lot of buildings going up. Like in St. Paul, there's going to be a whole new area where there was a golf course that just didn't go so well. So they took it apart, they auctioned it, and a builder picked it up, and they're going to do a massive change in that location. So we're seeing, new construction go up, but the question is still, will it help affordability? I don't know. That's it's tough. Like even if they create a program where they can actually receive government grants and be put in where a community where you have to meet a certain income threshold in order to stay in, it's still tough for those people to get in because those are the same people that have a hard time with the job and so on, right? So I don't know. I don't think we're going to be able to fix this overnight, but I
Yeah,
mean, we can keep taking a crack at it to see if we can, take it down.
for sure, for sure. Yep, I agreed. It's not going to be an easy fix. All right, so moving on now. We're kind of wrap this up and kind of like help. So this segment, we're gonna like try to help whether you're a buyer, a seller, an investor, or current homeowner, right? You know, what should you do in 2026, right? What can you do to prepare yourself, right? Like we said, there's so many things that we can't control, but if you are one of these things, you know, what should you be focused on? What should you control, right? And so the first thing, I'm gonna talk about the buyers, right? So if you're a
Mhm.
buyer right now, right, um, you can't control the rate, so stop waiting. Stop trying to time the rate, right? Um, Instead, you can control your preparedness, your readiness, right? So get yourself ready, right? Meaning that you should try to get pre-approved, right? And if you can't get pre-approved right now, well, what can you do to improve your chances of getting pre-approved, right? Which would be things like improve your credit score, pay down your debt, save up a little bit of money. Believe it or not, you need money to buy a house, right? You need to show that you have some money in the bank, right? It's not $0 down, right? Like some people like to say. You have to have at least something, right? Um, and there are grants available. So if you do qualify, talk to loan professionals like us, real estate professionals, and figure out if you do have a chance of getting pre-approved or getting qualified for a grant, right? Um, and then, of course, other things would be open to fixer uppers, right? You have to have to be flexible, adjust your criteria on a house, right? Especially if pricing is a factor, right? Your loan amount, right? You trying to buy a house for way more than you're pre-approved. It's really not going to happen. There's nothing we can do to help you. There's so many buyers that, hey, can I really get pre-approved? Can you see if I can get a 300,000? I just saw this house for $300,000. Can you up my pre-approval from 200,000? Dude, that's a huge amount. It's not gonna happen. you
And
know? Not
often loan officers, when they're giving you a pre-approval, they're telling you the max. Like they're like, this is the max amount you qualify for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's okay to stretch a little bit,
Mhm.
stretch a little bit. Maybe look at how, if you're pre-approved for say like 200,000, okay, maybe you can look at 225, 230, 240 maybe. But you have to be strategic about it. If the house has been sitting on the market for like 2 months, or if it's super run down looking, right, or outdated, and you can beat up the seller a little bit, negotiate some things, okay, right? But if it's that house is day one in the market and it's at 250 and you're pre-approved for 200,000, sorry, you really should not be looking at that house, right? Same thing kind of changes, right, based on competition. Back if the market is really competitive, right, houses are going under contract day one, right? People are fighting each other left and right. If you're pre-approved for 200,000, you probably can't even look at a house that's listed at 200,000 day one, right? That house is gonna be being outbidded 210, 225. You are not gonna touch that. You're not gonna be close, right? So you really do have to work with a professional that understands what's going on in your local area so that you know how to play it correctly, right?
Mhm.
Um, you have to match yourself. I really like to think of it as you have to find the right seller who's going to work with you to get you in that home. So to close out, right, if you're a buyer 2026, stop thinking right away that homes are too expensive. Instead, you need to ask yourself, how can I put myself into a position where I can afford a home, right? Um, so that's all I gotta say about that. Um, right now, for my buyers Milwaukee, honestly, it's a great time to negotiate under asking, especially if the house has been sitting. You can get seller credit, you can get inspection, right? We are in this small window where you have the power now as a buyer, right? You don't have to rush yourself, run from showings to showings. You are no longer asking me, hey, how much should we over offer? Should we waive inspection? Right? Some buyers I've been working with since that time, right? They're used to asking those questions and they stop looking. But now I'm telling them, you got to get back in the game. This is the perfect window because
Mhm.
now you're not going to ask that question. Instead, you're going to ask, hey, how much less do you think we can offer? Hey, can we get seller credit? Right? So if you're a buyer who's sitting on the fence and you're in a similar type of market, ask yourself, would you rather wait until spring when more people get in the market, when the rates might go down and definitely more people are going to get in? Or would you rather get in now? Right. So it's kind of where I'll leave it at. Johnny, you want to handle the sellers?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So for sellers who are not in the average price range, so above average price range, or for sellers that your house has been on the market for a little bit, what's going on is the likelihood is that your house is not showing well, right? You're gonna have to do some deferred maintenances. You got to make sure the house looks good and is ready for the next owner. Recently, I had someone who's gonna be listing with me. I walked in and all of the walls were purple, right? And I was like, I think it's okay, right? You can leave it that way. You probably just won't get an offer right away. But if you were to paint it to a neutral color, the likelihood is you'll get an offer right away because the house is a phenomenal house, right? And so the likelihood is that you'll get a better offer. In addition to that, um, touch up the house, make sure everything's in order. Today we just walked through one and there were scratches all over the linoleum floor, right? Or the LVP. There was a bunch of scratches all over them. Some of the tiles just weren't placed in the right spots. So there's like gaps. So my thoughts are is that if that was just cleaned up, that would have made the place a ton better. Some of the houses that we've gone to, there is no light bulbs in some of the light bulb sockets. Like put light bulbs in. So declutter, clean up, update. The minor things that you would think that people don't care for, they care, right? And so make sure it looks like brand new if you can, to the best of your ability, and prepare your home for first time home buyers, right? So if you're in a market where, let's say, for example, there's a ton of homes out there, prepare for when we say prepare for first time home buyers, we mean there are going to be people who are looking for homes for the first time and they don't know what to expect, right? So when you're getting the home ready, get it ready so that they don't have any questions, where they're not questioning your house like, what if this or what if that, right? They walk in, they can say, okay, this is exactly what we need, and everything, works out just fine. And then, of course, understand your market. Talk to your realtor, talk to your professional. They should have a really good idea. Take advice from them, because if you go in and you want to price your house high because you think that it's worth that amount, well, they are the professionals in the industry. They should have the tools and resources to be able to determine where the price is supposed to be. And you want to price it, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're in a market that's not selling very well, you need to price it low, right? And hope that people come in and upbid. And the actual value of your house is what someone will buy it for. And what that means is that if there is, like, if your house you think is worth $1 million, right? But no one is willing to offer you more than 500,000, the value of your house is around 500,000. So understand that the market dictates what your actual value is. So all in all, to round up, you know, um, it it's not the time, right? When you're in a position where you're selling in a market that is kind of tough, right? It is not the time to try to get a record price on that house. Um, we're not in 2021 where we're in COVID and interest rates are like at 3% and everybody's overbidding. We're in a position where there's going to be more houses coming on the market in your specific local area. And therefore, you need to prepare and you need to outprice them so that you can get multiple offers and get more money than you thought you were going to get in the first place. And then the biggest thing is, yes, it's your house, but detach your emotions from it. Detach the emotions from the house itself, because guess what? If you're selling it in, I don't know, 60, 90 days, it's not your house anymore. Let it go. Go find, your new house, or, move into wherever it is that you need to move into. Stop thinking about it as it is your house and it's worth so much, because you need to make changes. And that's why you're probably selling. So let go of the pain that you're going to go through and move forward with the ability to sell the house and get it into the right buyers so that they can live a decent, proper life, right? And then finally, the biggest thing is, a lot of people say time is money, right? And that means that if you're not priced right, and your house stays on the market for too long, you're going to run into a position where you're just dropping your prices and no one's buying. So don't put yourself in that position. Price right off at the top. Talk to your real estate advisors, your real estate agents, or realtors in the local area that you believe are the professionals in the industry. Get their advice and make the right moves.
Yep, definitely agree. Great points. Moving on. If you are a real estate investor, right? How do you handle 2026 coming up? Well, the nice thing about being an investor really is that there is always opportunity, right? If you know where to look, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, if you're not a real investor, you're probably just going to be like, throw your hands up in the air and say there's no deals. Right? And there are a lot of investors who claim to be investors and do that. Right? But if you're a true investor, you're always looking at the market, right? You're always looking for opportunity. So number one, to get started, is prepare your capital, right? Secure the bag, have your funds ready, have a strategy ready, right? How are you going to fund this, right? Whether that be savings, whether that be equity that you're going to pull out from some existing properties you own already, or maybe partnerships. Get those put in place, right? The SCR loans. Learn about all the different loans out there available for you, right? Hard money loans. What are the benefits? What are the risks, right? There's so many types of loans out there: conventional, commercial, right? What's going to work for you, right? And then of course, definitely focus on. I like to focus just on one strategy. There's a common theme, you know. What do you call it? Squirrel syndrome, shiny object syndrome, Johnny. Right?
Yep.
You have
Yep.
that. All right.
Yep. Absolutely.
We hear about the next newest, fanciest, shiniest investments, and we're like, "Oh, that looks good. Let me go do that." But you gotta stay focused, right? And that's the hardest part.
Mhm.
You gotta figure out the one thing you want to do and just go deep into it, right? Start learning the ins and the outs, right? How do you make it successful? Um, Same thing, right? Markets. I mean, certain markets are better than others, right? If you're an investor and you can't afford to buy a property in California because you live there, well, your California money can go really far in the Midwest, right? So
Mhm. Mhm. Very
select your
far.
market, right? Select your market wisely, right? Um, Select your strategy wisely, right? And kind of master it, right? And then analyze the deals, run the numbers, right? Um, Learn to run the numbers and be fast at it, be efficient at it, right? Where you can kind of just like, and I come from the engineering world where they call it the go no go test, right? Like you just kind of look at it like 1 second, 2 second, maybe 1 minute, like, yeah, those numbers don't work. Nope. Or, oh, that is pretty close. Okay, maybe that is worth my 1 hour to calculate all the numbers, right? Or whatever it might take you, right? So that is really just being efficient about it, right? Because nobody's going to take their time to calculate every single deal that they run across. Um, and then, your network, right? Build your network, have your real estate professionals, especially if you're going into a market that it's brand new to you, right? You don't have a trusted agent, you don't have a trusted contractor, property manager, things like that, lender, right? You got to build up that team, that network to help you, to guide you, right? Johnny used to work for one of the biggest short-term rental investor outfits, right?
Mhm.
What's the perk for somebody to work with you guys?
I mean, um, there's so many perks actually. Like when you work with us, you get to go through the classes for free. You get to be a part of the process. You get to see what all of your clients are doing, the direction that the investors are moving, why they're buying what they're buying. Like there's so much to learn, right? And you get to learn the different strategies that there are out there for short-term rentals. And then you also get to learn that you can create your own market, right? And what that means is that, like, let's say, for example, you pick up a short-term rental, right? And you turn it into a wedding venue, right? Say, for example, it's like 10 acres and you can put a giant, like, I don't know, pavilion out there that allows so many people to be underneath the pavilion for weddings. You can charge more, right?
Hmm.
Especially if your property can hold, like, let's say it's like a $1 million property and it can hold like 14 people. You can do a whole wedding event at your thing, which increases the value of the actual property itself. So ideas can make or break you as well. So there's so many things that you can learn, right?
Right,
So many
right.
things you can learn.
Yeah, and having that right network, you are basically standing on their shoulders, right? They're doing all the
Mhm,
work,
mhm,
the market research, they're getting the loan programs available for you. They're helping to connect your goals with their solutions, right?
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so you're going to move a lot faster and with people who actually know what they're doing, right? So at the end of the day, as an investor, it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market, right? So spend more time looking at the market, analyzing deals, right? Putting the reps in, and you will find the deals.
Yeah. So yeah, so moving on, right? So if you are currently a homeowner and you want to buy up and you want to upgrade and you're kind of feeling stuck because your interest rate is low, um, there's other opportunities that you can take, right? Say, for example, you can pull out equity from your home to purchase that next house while you rent it out, right? So you can still have the low rate on the house, they're paying the new mortgage, right? And the tenants are paying for the mortgage, and then hopefully a little bit in addition, so that it can pay for the new down payment so that you can get into the house that you want. Also check your financial pocket, right? If you talk to a professional, if you talk to a loan officer or a mortgage professional, or loan originators like myself or Laura, we have different tools that we might be able to look at and analyze and say, hey, if you do this, right, this would open up an opportunity where you can actually afford to buy that next new house. And then you can always, like, if you don't do a home equity loan to take the equity out of your position, or a cash out refinance, there are opportunities out there where you can buy first and then sell later. There, of course, there is a cost to it. There's a cost to doing those type of programs, but you have the ability to buy and then sell your house afterwards. So you're not feeling stuck. And so if you can't afford to sell, right? Then of course, uh, you know, it's okay to stay put, but if you want to move up, right, talk to a professional, get the financial advice, go over all the things that you can and cannot do, and then make a decision, see what fits you best, right? And the honest truth is that if it's a long-term goal to buy up, say for example, your family is growing and you plan on growing your family even more than that, the likelihood is it's better for you to do it today than to wait for tomorrow. And the reason why I say that is because price continues to increase in the real estate industry. And so with the supply chain just not being high enough, if you don't jump now, next year, like I think I talked earlier in the episode that our market went from the 13 counties in the Twin Cities here went from 370,000 to 390,000 in 1 year. So that's a $20,000 difference, and that might put you in a position where you can no longer buy. So my thoughts are is that talk to the professionals, get their advice, and jump in if you can.
Yeah, great tips there if you're a current homeowner. So just kind of summarize and wrap up the show here. So key points that hopefully you got takeaways from here is that the real estate market, it's always moving in cycles, right? So the real estate market, it's going to come and go in cycles, right? It's going to shift, but there really isn't one real estate market at the same time, right? So instead of asking how's the market, right, you need to stop asking your real estate professionals just a generic question, how's the market? Instead, right, you need to start asking, how's the market for me, right, for my situation, right? Because it's very hyper local to where you're at, your city, your neighborhood, your financial position, right? So if you are at any point in the future, now in the future, looking to make a move real estate wise, talk to your person that you trust, right? Ask them the right questions, and they'll be better to help guide you. Um, and then, even while the market is always shifting, understand as well that there's always going to be opportunity, right? Um, so you just gotta know where to look and how to position yourself to take advantage of the opportunity. And then, like Johnny said, if you don't know what's going on in the market, you can't make sense of all the media noise, the clickbait headlines, right? You don't have the time to sift through all that mess, right?
Mhm.
Talk to your professional that is out there in the streets, that's putting in the work in. They're out there on those streets. They know what's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in your city. Like Johnny said, he knows how long the houses are sitting. He knows how quickly they're moving, right?
Mhm.
What prices they're selling for. Can tell you that, right? You can't go on Google. You can't Google national headline news to tell you that, right? It's gonna be tough. You can't ask AI that. AI is probably not gonna know.
Yeah.
uh, so our job is to help you out to achieve what you want to do, help you understand what it's really like, right? Um, so just realize that, hey, there's always gonna be opportunities out there. You just gotta know where to look, right? And who can help you to do that. So, um, So hopefully with these strategies and our guidance and our predictions here on, if this happens, this is how you should play it. And, hopefully 2026, you're prepared and you can make this a year that you can move with confidence. So Johnny, I'm going to hand it back to you to close out the show.
Yeah. So I just want to say one thing. If you don't have a professional in the industry in your location, reach out to us. We'll find someone for you. Right. If we're not in your location, right? Say like Laura's currently in Milwaukee. He does both real estate and mortgages in Milwaukee. He probably knows the whole state of Wisconsin. That's same here. I'm in the Twin Cities. I don't really go outside of the Twin Cities, but we have a large network of loan officers as well as a large network of realtors. And so reach out to us. We'll get you connected to the right people. Outside of that, we want to thank you for jumping in and hanging out with us tonight. So thank you so much. In addition to that, please like, subscribe, and feel free to put some comments down. Right, we'll try to answer the comments that you put into, or the questions and comments that you guys put in. If we can answer your questions, like hopefully we can give you the advice that you need to be able to take the steps forward, whether you're an investor, first time buyer, or a seller. And then of course, feel free to also submit us questions. And if you have any ideas on what you want to hear us talk about, feel free to send that to us as well. We'll take into consideration and we'll take a look at it. In the future episodes, we're probably going to be having a financial advisor, a commercial real estate investor, a syndication investor, and a real estate attorney jump on. And so watch out for those to come. We'll probably be casting it out on Facebook as well as YouTube. And so if there is anything that you really, really want us to cover, we are real estate and we are wealth driven. So if there's anything you want us to cover, whether it's like crypto investing, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know too much about crypto lending, but I heard that, there's big scams out there. But if you want to learn about it, let us know. We'll get the right people on to talk about it and take it from there. So that's pretty much all I got. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our content.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Later.